Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, the podcast covering the entire and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom, movies, comics, TV shows.
Oppenheimer.
We got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here with Courtney. And Courtney, not a big week.
No.
But it's another week.
Yeah, last week took all of our news.
Yeah, for real. They didn't save any news for this week.
No.
But it does pave way for us to talk a little bit more about Peacemaker.
Clear out, we're talking about Peacemaker for an hour and a half.
But yeah, so this is going to be our full season review of HBO Max's Peacemaker. This is the first HBO Max DC TV show?
That's in the DCEU, yes.
Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty good start.
Solid season.
Yeah.
Was not expecting it to be that great.
Yeah. So we'll dive deeper into that in a little bit. But first, we got a lot of casting news this week. So why don't we start with our favorite film that has yet to come out.
What did we get? 3 new castings for Oppenheimer?
Yeah. So last week we made the joke that they're releasing this cast list like it's an NBA All-Star team.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they did it again.
Yes. So Kenneth Branagh is going to be in Oppenheimer from Murder on the Orient Express, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Mm-hmm. And he's also in Murder on the Nile?
I believe so, yeah.
Or Death on the Nile?
Death on the River Nile, yeah.
So that's gonna be fun. Just add everybody. And if you thought we weren't getting any, superhero or Star Wars castings out of this, wrong. So I always forget how to pronounce his last name. Young Han Solo.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yes, Young Han Solo also added to the cast. And if you thought that wasn't enough, if you thought we were messing around, Rob, hit him with the last one.
What is the last one? I didn't have it.
Oh, I thought you had it up.
Nope. Nope.
This is horrible. We're supposed to be the foremost,
Oppenheimer leading...
Yeah, news outlet on the net. Look at us. How are we gonna get to the premiere acting like this?
I don't know, but... Yeah,
that's the goal out of all this, is for us to get to the premiere. That's all I want out of this. Nothing would make me happier than, us two just talking about this, just getting at that premiere. It would be wonderful.
Matthew Modine? Did we say Matthew Modine?
We did not say. No, we did not.
Well, there you go.
From Stranger Things, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Joining a litany of other stars that we've already talked about.
Dylan Arnold, that was from you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He's also in Oppenheimer.
So, like I posed the question last week, we're going to have enough roles for all these people, apparently.
In Christopher Nolan we trust. I don't have any doubt in my mind.
This is a big cast, even by Nolan's standards.
It's a massive cast, but we did get the first look at Cillian Murphy as the name role, Oppenheimer. It's going to be great. It's gonna be good stuff.
Of course it's gonna be good.
And of course the big thing is this is Christopher Nolan's first time not making a film for Warner Brothers, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to when this actually starts filming and we see a thing for it.
Right.
Because we've talked about it.
Right.
Plenty.
Right. Hopefully we're in the Cillian Murphy Oscar era, because I'm so glad that he's getting a leading role, and the supporting cast. I mean, who's going to be the pick for best supporting actor if it gets to that range? You got 10 to pick from. So we'll see how big or small all these roles are, but gearing up to be a pretty high touted film for Hollywood next year. So
agreed. So we got more casting news. We had casting news for Kraven last week. And we did. Had more casting news for Kraven. Fred Hechinger? Hechinger. Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Yes. He's playing the Chameleon, and it's funny because when we talked about, I believe, we did our Spider-Man No Way Home review, we talked about the future a little bit. We talked about who do we want to get cast, and I said Bill Hader would be a great Chameleon. Lo and behold, they didn't listen to me.
No, they didn't. You don't have as much influence as you think.
That's ridiculous. We got half this Oppenheimer cast in here.
So, yeah, the Chameleon is apparently going to be in Kraven as not a villain, surely.
I would assume he might end up being... Because, think about it, if Kraven hunts, then one thing that's going to be incredibly, difficult to hunt is a chameleon, something that can change. So I would definitely see that being the main villain. But that begs the question of these, anti-hero to villain-led origin stories that Sony's pumping out. How are we going to spin this without Spider-Man?
Well, that's always been the question with these.
Right.
But they've only done one character so far.
And it's Venom.
Yeah.
But Venom had enough from, source material to get something like that off. It was he had enough, he had enough baggage to make sure that he had some storylines to kind of run through. But
I mean, I guess we're gonna get a better gauge for this when Morbius comes out, right?
Right.
Because it's not like Morbius is, teaming with rogues to go against. So I don't exactly know who the villain is of that movie.
It's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. That's the villain of that movie.
Is it just the government?
I guess so. Which was also the villain, or just, corporate higher-ups, I guess. Which is that just the villain of all the Sony movies ever since The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, so I mean, Morbius, I guess, is going to shine more light on how this is going to go going forward. I forget what the tagline is for Morbius. It's like blurring the line between hero and villain or something like that. So I don't know.
Like Did Venom already do that?
I guess Venom is more falls into like the hero camp.
He's a lethal protector.
Lethal protector, indeed. So we got a little more Blade casting. Aaron Pierre is tapped for a major role in Blade.
Yes, so Aaron Pierre from Old, if you saw M. Night Shyamalan's last film, and from one of my personal best shows from last year, Underground Railroad, that Barry Jenkins did, played the main character in that as well, or one of the main characters in that. Really talented actor with not a lot of roles under his belt, which is great. So something like getting a Marvel role this early could be really great for his career. So really loved him in Underground Railroad. Happy to see what's going to happen with that. People are saying, just throwing stuff out, people are saying Brother Voodoo, but I'm pretty sure Brother Voodoo was technically in Doctor Strange 1, if I'm not mistaken. That got killed, that was guarding whatever sanctum, the London sanctum, who knows. But yeah, so he's in there, so we have Delroy Lindo, Mahershala Ali, and Aaron Pierre. So pretty solid cast to start off. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this film's going to look like. I don't know if we're going to try to expand, because I know the Wesley Snipes Blade movies had a lot of original content in them. So I can definitely see them trying to, go deep into Marvel lore a little bit and see what they can pull from. But no, I'm super excited. Mahershala Ali is one of the most talented actors in the world, along with Delroy Lindo, and now up-and-comer Aaron Pierre. So good piece of casting, in my opinion. I think that's really strong.
Yeah, I agree. I think they want this movie to obviously be a big deal, because, I mean, it's a ways away. Yeah. And we've already had Mahershala Ali show up in Eternals as a voice, but, they're already, planting the seeds for him to arrive in the MCU, which pretty much shows you that they're trying to make this a big deal and a big character into the MCU. Right. Because it's not often they introduce a character this early.
Right, yeah. And only voice, they're really trying to... this whole Phase 4, the setups for this new Phase 4 has been really good. I mean, you talk Jonathan Majors, you talk Sharon Carter as the power broker. We have Wanda turning into possibly one of the bigger anti-heroes, if not villains, in the MCU. So you have a lot of setup that they've been, combing through this first half of Phase 4. So I think that's really fun. And yeah, this Blade movie can be really special, really interesting. And, the Midnight Suns are kind of forming. I think they're really trying to dive into that, that supernatural realm of the MCU. So no better way to do it than with Moon Knight and with Blade, with Black Knight, with Werewolf by Night. We're going to have some fun with that.
Yeah, just it's crazy to think about the cast that they have specifically for those three characters. You have Oscar Isaac playing Moon Knight, you have Mahershala Ali playing Blade, and you have Kit Harington playing Black Knight. Yeah. Those are three A-list actors. Yeah. Right. No, that you're just getting to do this kind of side hustle in the MCU, basically.
But I mean, we always made the point from before that before the Avengers came out, the Avengers were not the A-list of Marvel Comics. It was Spider-Man, it was the Fantastic Four, it was the X-Men, and look what turned out of that. So something similar could be happening for them.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this also, that we're not in this realm anymore where you're going to see an Avengers Endgame style film.
Right.
Where, all these properties are going to cross over into one thing. Everybody's going to be doing their own thing.
Right.
And they're going to group up within their own little kind of posse. You know what I mean?
I think it's going to be more free-flowing, where characters are more likely to show up one or two somewhere else. Before it was really it was such a big deal if if that were to happen before. Like, I mean, Chris Evans was in Thor: The Dark World for 2 seconds, but it was really Loki, and that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even him. So now it's like somebody can just show up anywhere. Like, I mean, Daredevil was in Spider-Man No Way Home. That's the part where you're supposed to be surprised.
No, I was surprised last week.
Oh, yeah, you were. Okay, so you saw the movie finally.
No, you just spoiled it for me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry for everybody for spoiling Spider-Man No Way Home again. No, but yeah, it's really crazy to think about how far we've come, how normal everything is, and I can really see these characters kind of being put on a pedestal for what's to come, especially with the names you get behind it too. I can almost see Marvel trying to reach in because we never really hit that kind of horror / supernatural world yet. So I think that's really what they want to focus on. So like I said, I think I said this when we were talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little bit before, kind of like the different phases of inside the Phase 4 that they're kind of going for. They're going for, we're going to do the street level thing. We're going to do the, the big threat thing. And then we're going to do something that's really underground that's really going to possibly have a bigger role kind of going forward too. So I think this is all leading to Secret Wars. Like every single piece of this, they're trying to throw as many characters as you can get.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And that's, as far as ambitious projects, that's definitely a step up from what they did with Infinity War and Endgame.
Right.
If they were trying to do Secret Wars. So, raising the bar.
Yeah.
Like it feels like Marvel is in like that monopolized kind of world where they're not trying to compete with anybody else. They're just trying to compete with themselves.
Right.
Like, and just, constantly raise the bar. And I think you're seeing that even with these last two movies that are being released, right. Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is almost like looking back at Spider-Man No Way Home and being like raising the bar even
which is
higher than that.
Which is insane to think about.
Exactly.
Because, now we're dealing with, the power of nostalgia is strong. It's incredibly strong. So I think Doctor Strange is going to work. And then this, like we said, this new era of Marvel that we're in it's really fun to kind of navigate and kind of pinpoint all these different characters that are being thrown at you, characters that you can kind of learn to love too. And they have a lot to go. We haven't even hit the Fantastic Four and the X-Men yet.
Exactly. So switching gears over to Netflix, so Stranger Things kind of has their release slate, and they're doing season 4 in 2 different volumes. So volume 1 and 2, and they're both slated for 2 different release dates that are pretty far apart, but not unlike a standard TV show that takes a break. So what do you think about Stranger Things splitting their 4th season up?
It's interesting. So what are the dates? It's, I believe, one's in May and one's in July.
Something like that.
If I'm not mistaken, something close to that. It's really interesting. I've never seen anything like that because let's take Ozark for example. Ozark seasons are split they're pretty far apart. But this is seemingly just a decision because...
So it's May 27th and July 1st.
Right. So that's...
About a month.
Yeah. So that's super close to each other. So I got to think either there's going to be a major death and they want people to process it. Mm-hmm. One of the main characters I think will die. And then they want that kind of time for grief because of how much we've grown to love these characters over the last how many years that since the show has come out. I think that's the main reason for this. It's like I said, I've never seen anything like that of so close of having a volume 1 and a volume 2 because even Infinity War and Endgame a year apart, something like that. Most sequels that happen, Hunger Games, if I'm thinking back a little bit, same thing, a year apart from the part 1 and the part 2. I think even between the second one, third one, and fourth one, so all those were a year apart. But this just being a month, roughly like a month away from each other. Yeah, that's really interesting and really a kind of, it feels like an artistic route to take of, leaving the public. And because let's take Euphoria, for example. Anytime Euphoria comes on, the internet shuts down. So when Stranger Things comes back, it's going to be a similar thing, in my opinion. So like I said, I think this is going to be leading to a major character death at the end of season 1 or part 1. And then part 2 is going to deal with the ramifications of that.
Yeah, that's a good, that's a good assumption to make. It's weird that, Netflix is still sticking to its model of dumping the entire season on at once, as opposed to like what Disney Plus does, what, weekly installments, what HBO does, what weekly installments. Netflix it felt like at the time that Netflix was doing the right thing, like give me the whole thing at once, but I'm not so sure that's the right model anymore for streaming services. I think that you mentioned Euphoria, like, has that community of, like, everyone sits down and watches it, and then they wait and they react and then they wait till next week, and then the same thing happens. With these Netflix shows, like, it's kind of like people shotgun them in, like, one shot, and then that's it. Like, people are done talking about it. So I don't know. I can't imagine a world in which Netflix switches gears, because it's kind of like the foundation which it built itself on. But I don't know. It feels like they're getting passed by. These other, because you look at, going to Disney Plus, you think about The Mandalorian, week to week. Imagine, like, you wouldn't have the quote unquote, like, Baby Yoda, like, craze if the whole season of The Mandalorian had just been dumped at once. Because the big thing off that first episode of The Mandalorian was the Baby Yoda reveal. And people were sitting on that for like a week.
And I even want to take that a step further, which I think the perfect example for that is WandaVision, of that week to week, because the theorizing, I think, is the big part. So imagine if Stranger Things was week by week, like, the theorizing would go off the charts of where we think the next episode would start, or where characters' arcs would start, or anything that would happen to them. I think, like I said, WandaVision has that whole, it had a full-out stranglehold. I mean, we were diving into Mephisto and Reed Richards when that was happening, so not like something like that's going to happen for Stranger Things because it's original content, but it's going to be really similar. And that could also lend credence to the fact that it's a two-parter, like, so close to each other. Like, maybe they are trying to see, like, if dumping it all at once is not so good, so, like, maybe just split it part 1 and part 2 so close, and maybe something will happen in between part 1 that kind of, ramps up the hype for part 2.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. The last bit of thing I have is another casting. So Walter Goggins has been cast in an Amazon TV Fallout show, which I wasn't even aware that they were making.
Me neither. I did not know about that.
But it's a hell of a casting. I mean, Walton Goggins is, been all over the place. Sons of Anarchy, Django Unchained, Ant-Man and the Wasp most recently. So it's good casting for the lead, who presumably is just going to be the quote-unquote vault dweller. Like, Fallout's a weird game to try to adapt, because it's a tried and true role-playing game. So, like, you're not assuming the role of anyone. You're basically assuming the role of yourself placed into this world. So it's kind of odd to make a show about a nameless character. But hey, I mean, it works sort of in Westerns, right? The Lone Wanderer is basically Fallout. Like, that's the character, is the Lone Wanderer. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, we're getting into this phase where media consumption, right? And so we've milked comic books for all they're worth. So now we're doing video games.
Yeah, I think video games might hit a stride very soon.
It feels that way.
Something you're going to talk about at the end of this.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. Over the last couple of years, the quality has slowly but surely of these video game movies and TV shows has risen, in my opinion. The Tomb Raider movie was not bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. But then, I mean, you look at something like Sonic that kind of really surprised, I think, a lot of people. Yeah. And especially you have so many people looking forward to the sequel. And then Uncharted, which I'm going to talk about towards the end of this.
Right.
So, that being said...
It's time for peace.
Yeah. Peacemaker. So this was the sequel series to The Suicide Squad, which, if you go back and listen to our Suicide Squad review, we were both overwhelmingly positive of that film.
Yeah.
One of the best comic book movies, not of just the year, but,
It feels like, it feels taboo to say, but I really think it's one of the better comic book movies of all time. I mean, the stylized nature of it, the character development with so little time to kind of fit such a massive amount of characters on screen. You feel for all of these characters immediately. You want to know about them. You want to know about their origins. You want to know where they're going to land. And just adding the layer of having this team that they're not good people. Or, let me take that back. They've done bad things, but not necessarily. We're going to find out who the good people are and who the bad people are. And that's kind of where Peacemaker picks up.
Yeah. So it was an interesting decision, right? To do a show about Peacemaker because of all the characters in the Suicide Squad. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Peacemaker becomes an antagonist towards the end of the film. He becomes kind of the villain with a face, really. Because the true villain, obviously, is... Well, I guess you could argue the true villain is Amanda Waller.
Correct. I believe that too. Yeah.
But you have her, which is she's kind of like the unreachable kind of villain,
right?
And then you have Starro, who is like the physical kaiju-esque villain.
Starro and Jotunheim, all the operatives of Jotunheim and Corto Maltese. So those are the real villains.
And then Peacemaker emerges as a surprise antagonist of the movie. He kills Rick Flag.
Yeah, really. Like we said in our review, super emotional scene that just came out of nowhere. Well choreographed, and like I'll even talk about this in Peacemaker, but you can really feel that from James Gunn's directing. All the hits that you take in these movies, in any of his movies, especially in the Suicide Squad, you feel all the emotional weight of anything that's happening, and that really doubles down in Peacemaker because you got a lot of time to operate and you got a lot of time to kind of grow with him too.
And I think that the most unique thing about James Gunn and the way he writes, the way he directs, is somehow he is able to draw emotion from the most ridiculous circumstances possible.
Right.
He has you feeling for a scene with a CGI eagle in this TV show. I can't say enough good things about it. But the show did have a lot of legwork to do because you leave Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad not really morally gray.
No, he's... And it's funny because that's something that's super difficult for people to kind of grasp, is that it's not that simple as even morally gray sometimes is not that simple. And I think this is what this show does really well. It kind of plays with that we're super complex. Even like it's more decision to decision over like an overall thing that I've done bad or I've done good. So John Cena himself really sells that well. I think that's one of the first wins that I'll talk about this whole show, is that John Cena gives probably his best performance outside of the Suicide Squad, I guess, continued.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. He nails it. He's good. He hits every kind of emotional beat. He's funny.
Yeah.
I mean...
Even his line delivery is much better than I thought. Like and it's funny because like you think about WWE and it's... Sorry, guys, it's scripted. I didn't know if
it's what.
It's what?
He's back. My guy's back. My character's back.
It's what? No, but seriously, like to kind of having to act in that, but kind of make it like, you know, your evolving storylines, I guess, for WWE, and like
it's performance theater.
Yeah, it's theater. That's what it really is.
Yeah.
It's like a big, like, you know, over dramatized theater. But like now you have to really scale back and to talk about what I always talk about with movies, like real human emotion, like that, like real, like where you can't feel it. It's just something that's so natural, and he kind of grips that really well too.
Yeah, he's very sharp.
Yeah, he is
very quick. I mean, I don't think anybody could have missed the scene where he's rattling off just names.
Yeah.
for minutes on end. Apparently all just off the top of his head.
Yeah. And then they added to it at the end of the episode. So I love all the end of the episodes. They just add to one of the comedy scenes from the inside the episode. It's great.
Yeah. He's sharp, he's funny, but he also plays on those more emotional moments, which we'll break down. So where we pick up when the show starts is, spoiler alert, again, for the Suicide Squad, Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, shoots Peacemaker in the throat. He's presumed dead, but then a post-credits scene in Suicide Squad reveals that he's merely recovering from his injuries, and that's where basically Peacemaker picks up. Is he's in the hospital getting ready to be discharged, and I mean the comedy is apparent right away.
I guess a shot to the neck doesn't kill anybody. Didn't kill Chris Hemsworth in Extraction, didn't kill Peacemaker. But yeah, like Rob said, we pick up, we're in the hospital, and Peacemaker, he thinks he's scot-free. He's been there for a little bit. He's like, I'm gonna get out of here. I gotta go see Eagly. I gotta go see what's happening, because I was in jail before this, so I'm kind of free. And then he gets back to his trailer, and lo and behold, the Amanda Waller's kind of crew that she had, that we saw, two of them?
Harcourt and Economist, yeah.
We see them coming back, and they kind of bring him in and say, hey, we're going to run this back. You're not as free.
But they run it back under the pretense of Waller's punishing us, basically.
Right. Because they did portray Waller at the end of the Suicide Squad.
Yep, and that's basically where we pick up. So who's his crew?
So he's got John Economist coming back from the Suicide Squad with Amelia
Steve
Harcourt.
Agee.
Yes.
And Jennifer Holland, respectively.
And both are great. And it's, again, these characters that nobody knows or nobody would care about in a million years if you just told them about them. Just seeing their, in 8 episodes too. It's not like they're getting it's not like a CW show where you're getting 22 episodes to kind of, navigate people's emotions and kind of how they're supposed to act. You're getting 8 episodes to do this, and it works every single time. I mean, Economist talking about the reason behind him dyeing his beard had people emotional.
That's what I mean. Gunn is able to pull these emotional moments out of the most ridiculous circumstances. And I think it goes back to his character work and how he's able to develop characters throughout his movies and his TV shows.
Right.
He makes these people 3-dimensional. He makes you give a shit about them. Or, in layman's terms, you think back to even Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Making us care about Rocket, making us care about Groot.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. It's ridiculous on paper, but once you really get down to the nitty gritty, it's so refreshing to kind of get back to that real character work, which a lot of people are kind of afraid of sometimes. Like, they want to focus on, these bigger scaled threats and, these big worlds that they're trying to build. But I always say, you need to worry about the people that are existing inside of that world, our point of view characters that we're supposed to kind of grow with and love.
And this is where I kind of compare this to other DC properties where, we talked about Justice League and Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel. It's what this show does that those other things didn't is, yes, the stuff in this show is inherently ridiculous, but it treats it with a nuance.
And a normalcy, I think. I'll also add to that. And I think I told you before we hopped on, there's something it's kind of where we are with the MCU. Everything's so normal now. So, for instance, so in the show, I think it's episode 3, you find out that Peacemaker, his father, Augie Smith, which we'll get into, the T-1000's back from Terminator.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has a room basically where he keeps all of Peacemaker's stuff and his stuff, all of his weapons, gadgets, whatever it may be, and it's like a folding 3-dimensional space outside of space and time, and I was like, okay, cool, makes sense. I didn't even stop to think about it.
And the character's treated that way too,
right? And that's how it is. There's metahumans running around. I mean, he names drops Green Arrow. He names drops all the Justice League at some point.
Matter Eater Lad,
Batmite. Everything's just normal and cool. And fifth dimensional beings. A guy that can eat anything ever, and it's just cool. Let's see how we can get to defeating the butterflies. Nothing ever stops me from believability.
Yeah, so we have Clemson Murn, who's their kind of leader of this group.
Main villain of Guardians 3. And this show kind of got him his audition for Guardians 3 too, and James Gunn himself said he was super impressed with him, and that's why he made him presumably the High Evolutionary. I believe that's what the consensus is that he's going to play, which is going to be cool.
Yeah, does a good job as kind of the straight-laced kind of team lead who has to oversee, a team of, he's got his right hand who's Harcourt, who's kind of an offshoot of him, kind of, and then he's got to deal with just these
bumbling idiots,
these buffoons.
Yeah,
you have Economist and Peacemaker who are constantly bickering with each other. You have we haven't talked about Danielle Brooks' character Adebayo yet. She's kind of I would say she's the point of view character.
Yeah, I think she is too. Yeah.
She's the rookie. She's obviously got more tricks up her sleeve than she leads to believe.
Right.
But compared to everyone else in the group, she leads a pretty normal life. Has a wife. A fiance? A wife?
Wife, it's her wife, yeah.
Yep.
And dog children?
Dog children, yep. So she's kind of on the team as she's a, spoiler alert if you haven't paid attention to the show the last 8 weeks. We treat spoilers with TV a little differently than movies because it covers 8 weeks. So if you haven't caught up by now, sorry, but she's Waller's daughter.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
No, that was fun.
That was a really good twist out of the gate too, yeah.
Couple nice... couple cameos from Viola Davis.
And I think what that adds too, which is really interesting, it's kind of you would think Waller's daughter would act exactly like how Hardcore or Myrn acts, and I just love how her daughter's completely just normal and just I don't buy into any of this kill for the government stuff. She was like, I worked at a dog shelter before this. Like, I love how normal she is. Like, that I thought was really refreshing.
And then you have the final member of the crew who's adopted by the crew, my personal MVP.
And possibly everybody's favorite character in this entire show.
Freddie Stroma as Adrian Chase, a.k.a. Vigilante.
So if you weren't happy with Arrow with switching out Adrian Chase to be Prometheus instead of Vigilante, well, I hope you're happy now.
What an absolute revelation.
Yes. And he wasn't even supposed to play Vigilante, which is even crazier.
Right.
So, I mean, God works in mysterious ways, if that's what you believe in, because he was working overtime to make sure that he was Vigilante, because he's so good. He's incredible. His line delivery is great. His comedic moments are great, but there's also something really sad about him too, which I think is the best about. So like, you take those comedic characters like Drax, like he's unintentionally funny because of how he acts, because there's such this pain behind him, and I kind of get the same thing from Adrian. Like, there's all these things that happen to him, which really is kind of like, you kind of put pieces together. I mean, he talked about his dad leaving his mom for another guy, and it's just that like quick moments where it's like, he's a psychopath basically.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, he's legitimately a psycho.
Peacemaker kills by a code. Whether you think that code is mentally sound or not is really up to you. But Vigilante really has no code.
No, his code is like,
he kills criminals.
Yeah, he
no matter the severity of the crime,
because he even jokes about it in episode 2. They were smoking weed, and he goes, "I would have killed you guys 3 years ago. I can't believe they legalized that." So yeah, he's full out a psychopath, and it makes him all the better for this show. It's the perfect counter for Peacemaker, because it's like some of the stuff they do overlaps a little bit. So it's like Peacemaker to look at him and be like, "Why are you like this?" Like, I'm not that far off from you. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and like I think I talked about like the list of characters on TV shows that bat 1,000 in their scenes is a slim list. But Fred Stroma bats 1,000 in this show. There's not a single moment he's on screen where you're not laughing.
Yeah, you're waiting for him to get on screen, because you're going to get some added levity, and you're going to get some reflection pieces. It's incredible what James Gunn's able to do with somebody like that. And just a character I just didn't think was going to... Because I remember when Vigilante was like announced, I think the original actor left for scheduling reasons. I gotta think they might have reworked some of the scenes with him as soon as like Freddie Stroma came on and started, acting a little bit.
I do think they ADR'd some of his voice lines in over like in the earlier episodes. Which, again, for the better, I think.
Yeah, I think they turned this role a little bit more comedic, because traditionally Adrian Chase is not like this. He's far from this, honestly. I mean, he acts more like, if I'm just to throw something out, like Deathstroke almost. Like, he's much more hinged and much more cool, calm, and collected.
But that's the fun of playing in a sandbox with characters that nobody really knows.
Right, you can kind of... And comics are interesting, too, because you don't need to do the same... I mean, Star-Lord is completely different than he was in the late 2000s. He's much different now than he was. I mean, Iron Man, same thing, because of the movies. Like, things happen in live-action media, and then people change. Characters change, so... This is a perfect example of characters changing. And I think also the Arrow stuff I think they were probably aware of what happened in Arrow too, and made sure that Adrian Chase himself was Vigilante. So I think it's a great pick to kind of put with Peacemaker.
Yeah, it's really great. It's incredible. And then kind of so there's two kind of lead antagonists in this show. There's the quote-unquote butterflies, who is the impetus for why this group was put together. And then you have Peacemaker's father, Augie Smith, played just magnificently by Robert Patrick. Just a scumbag.
No, just the worst human being you can find. Just like the dirt at the bottom of your shoe is Augie Smith. But Chris buys into it. He really...
But it's realistic.
Right, yeah. Because it's like, you put this kind of aura around your parents that they're perfect, and as you're younger, and then the older you get, as the more you learn about the world, and kind of your biases are kind of being formed in your opinions, like, either it's going to, coalesce with them or it's going to start to drift from them. And I think it's a perfect example of him thinking, because of that code that he built for himself was so much in line with what his dad wanted, because he even says in the show when he's kind of, I love the moments where John Cena kind of just starts, just revealing stuff that like he never would admit because he's becoming more of a human essentially. It's the same thing. You're really starting to realize like his father's a horrible person and he just wasn't realizing it because he told him the thing they have in common is they hate criminals, but Augie's only going after certain types of criminals and possibly maybe people that didn't commit crimes.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, and that goes back to the very first scene that Peacemaker is in with the janitor. I was like, oh yeah, Peacemaker, you're that racist superhero. He's like, no. He's like, well, you do this, and this. He's like, all right. He's like, you know what? You got a point. And that really kind of starts his introspective journey. And then what I really loved was that the fight with Rick Flag, really lingers heavy over Peacemaker's head.
Yeah, it ignites kind of like the flame to become more complete instead of just being a soldier for peace, just being who's Christopher Smith, because like who the Peacemaker is, but who's Christopher Smith? He's been so closed off and kind of behind the charade, which we have. It's really allegorical, like you've gotten to like develop like the persona of yourself, but who are you?
Yeah, this show is, when it boils down to it, this show is a character study of Peacemaker, and it's great. Every episode feels like another layer is being peeled back, right, to the point where at the end of the series, or season, I should say, because we are getting a season 2, but the end of this season, nobody calls him Peacemaker.
No, they call him Chris, yeah. And also
and that's design. That's a choice by James Gunn. Right. That people are calling him Chris by the end of this. Right. Where in the beginning of the series, everybody would just call him Peacemaker.
Yeah, and it's cool that Adebayo was the first one to be like, hi, Chris, like you're not, because she had no bias against him when she walked in there. She just knew him as the Peacemaker, as your father. But it's also, dads are crappy. Like she knows like her parents are bad. Like even Harcourt says like, my dad gave me a gun when I was 12 and look what it transformed me into. Like it's like so many themes are being thrown at you, and it's another great thing about James Gunn's like filmmaking and kind of like his storytelling of like these themes that are being thrown at you subconsciously. It's like you have your main theme and then all these subconscious themes, like these underlying themes that are getting the point across. And I think the parent one is really good. Like she's not defined by her father and like, or her mother, and she knew it, so she was trying to get Chris to realize the same thing. Like I figured out a long time ago I wasn't Amanda Waller, and I'm the better for it. Like you're not Augie Smith, you're Christopher Smith, so you need to start acting like it.
Yeah. So rewinding a bit. So the team is put together to stop Project Butterfly, which is, and they make the in joke like, oh, like you guys are real original. Right. Project Starfish, Project Butterfly, which are, they serve as kind of the horror element of the show, right? Because some of the sequences with the butterflies are really kind of horrific.
Yeah, the butterflies were heavily influenced by Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It was like directly, even down to the noises they were making were the same from that movie too.
Yeah, so they are kind of an alien race that has infiltrated the highest level of officials in the United States and the world, right? And they are tasked. This group, they're not really Task Force X, they're like Task Force X adjacent, has been tasked with shutting this operation down. Right. And the whole series is Peacemaker's just trying to figure out why. Right. And nobody's telling him why.
Right, because after the death of Rick Flag and kind of his inspection, where he starts is like, cool, I'll do it, but I'm really not down for, like, nobody's telling him anything, like, out of the gate. Mern won't tell him anything. None of the team will tell him anything. They're just like, we just want you because we know... a weapon. You're just a weapon. That's it. We just need you to pull the trigger, and we're going to point where, and you're going to pull the trigger. That's it.
But he can't do it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the interesting thing about it.
And it gets really really good in episode... what is it? Episode 2, I believe, or 3. I think that's where it happens, where they go to kill Senator Goff. So that's like another butterfly, but Chris doesn't know what the butterfly, and we also don't know as the viewer what the butterflies are for the first 2.5 episodes. We don't know, and you find out at the end of episode 3 what they are. So the butterflies are, truthfully, they're actually butterflies, or they're a butterfly-looking race. And then it's funny because like Goff comes out of its head, and Peacemaker's like, "Oh, Project Butterfly. Oh, okay. You guys are super literal with all your names."
Yeah.
Right. So, yes, like Rob said, they are a race that kind of takes over bodies, enhances their strength when you take over the body, too. And they need a very specific substance to live, and that's kind of where you get the MacGuffin for the season at the end.
Yeah, which
more kaiju.
Yeah. You know, this isn't a show or a story that's defined by its villain, as far as the butterflies are concerned. They're really kind of like a faceless kind of villain.
Yeah.
They're like a vehicle for Chris to kind of come to terms with who he is now.
And a message. It's really they deliver a message by the end of the season too.
Yeah.
A reflection of our own doings as humans.
Exactly. So, you know, as far as villains go, obviously Chris's dad is the more compelling of the antagonists, but that's also by design.
Right. But I will say that scene where the butterflies kind of come to fruition and all of them come back to Earth, incredible. And I guess we could talk about the music for the second, because the music choices in the show, and it also, again, adding music as a layer, because music can just be put into a movie or a show, and it can just be cool musical moments that people associate stuff with now. But adding that into the plot, I think, is another layer that a lot of great filmmakers use, and I think that was something that he used. Using that song, 11th Street Kids by Hanoi Rocks, to kind of connect him and Economist, because, again, we're not too different. Even him and Economist have some common ground. Chris just wasn't willing to give it up because, again, it was the whole thing that Vigilante told him, like, you have these animals around you that can't communicate with you, and, like, these strong animals to, like, bring out your masculinity, but it's okay to connect with people, and he does with Economist, he does with Adebayo, with Hardcore, with Vigilante, with every single person on the team, outside of Myrn, but that's a different thing that we'll get into in a second.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing. Yeah, so the whole, you know, you get Peacemaker's origin story in this show, which, boy...
Super, like, Star-Lord levels of sad.
Yeah, if not more so.
Yeah.
So he has a brother, Keith, they're raised by their racist father. They apparently just fight each other.
Right. Yeah, I guess for sport, for money, I guess. His father just has them fight each other just for fun.
Keith is the golden child,
right,
the favored son. And Chris accidentally kills Keith in one of these fights and draws his father's animus for eternity. And that's kind of how he became Peacemaker, and he developed this code so that he, you know, because of the accidental death of his brother, he would never kill without cause, basically, is what he, you know, that's his code, which sounds, in the Suicide Squad, sounds ridiculous. You know, I cherish peace, I fight for it with all my heart, no matter how many men, women, and children I had to kill to get it. It sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and he... You know, by the time the show starts, he's already rethinking that code.
Right.
Because, you know, he makes a big deal out of not shooting the senator and his children in episode 2 by saying, you know, my weapon wasn't designed correctly, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, it's the big dove of peace that he has in his chest, his sword. So basically that dove of peace is very insignificant of, you know, what it says. Like, it's a symbol of peace. So that's the only, if I use this weapon to kill somebody, I need to remind myself by looking at it why I'm doing this. And when he goes to kill Senator Goff and his children, he sees the children and he's just like, I can't do it. I simply can't. I'm not. And it's just the difference between Vigilante and Peacemaker, because, like, the public might see them as the same, but really character studies are supposed to differentiate, and it really does, because Vigilante tells them just move over a second, just kills the kids immediately, and you find out that the kids that the whole family are butterflies, so it's not like they're humans anymore, they're aliens now.
Yeah, that's the difference between, you know, the butterflies and your typical kind of, like, possession type things, is once the butterfly infiltrates you, you're dead. That's it.
Right.
The butterfly retains the memories of the host, but other than that, the human is dead from the moment the butterfly enters them. So, it takes... And, you know, Peacemaker also reconciles with that fact. What is it, episode 5 or 6, when he tells Harcourt, like, look, it wasn't because the dove wasn't on my weapon. I can't kill humans anymore.
Right.
And then she's like, this is a real bad time to have, like, a crisis of conscience. He's like, oh no, aliens I can murder indiscriminately. Yeah. He's like, but I can't kill people anymore.
Yeah.
Until...
Right. And I think it's more of, like, in the moment, he was just like, I can't kill people. Obviously, if somebody does something bad, I don't think that he's going to change his full moral compass because how strong it was emblazoned to him, but I think it's going to be more of, like, the women and children might get, or the children especially might get dialed back, and the women and men need to be, evil or trying to kill somebody for him to do it. So I think it's like a turn of like taking those C and D list characters and kind of giving them just some more character development for themselves so they can become credible and not just, cannon fodder when it comes to like a big team up.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, just to jump the gun a little bit, like I can definitely see Peacemaker popping up in some other people's properties going forward, especially if this DCU continues. Mm-hmm. I can definitely see him some places. I mean, if I'm just to think about one thing, if they decide to do something with the Justice Society after Black Adam, that's definitely somewhere I can see him, depending on when that Justice Society movie's taking place.
Right.
Because I have a theory that that's not taking place in present day. That might take place in like I don't know. It's definitely, it looks more modern, but it doesn't look like present day. There's something about it.
Yeah. So Murn's a butterfly.
Yeah. Big reveal at the end of episode 4, I believe you find out he's a butterfly, and then 5, Adebayo also finds out that he's a butterfly. bigger reveal. Bigger twist. Everybody on the team knows that Murn's a butterfly. Right. And Adebayo's just like, why didn't you guys tell me anything? And Murn's like, well, I also know that Amanda Waller is your mother too. So it's and that's just the brilliance of the show being written is these plot twists are twists to us, but not twists to the characters. Right. Because if you think about it, like they're like, it's always what you think about with like, plot convenience and other shows that people don't like. It's just like, well, how didn't they know this X, Y, Z? Like now it's like, for us, like you said, it's a surprise, but like for them, it's like, oh, we're secret operatives. You didn't think I was going to do any research on my team, or you didn't Harcourt didn't know that she was Waller's daughter, and she goes, Murn, did you know about this? He's like, yeah, I did. You don't think I vetted my team? Mm-hmm. Like, of course I did. I didn't know that she was going to do this. Yeah, like that was stupid, yeah. Which the impetus for the whole reason that Adebayo was put on this team by Waller is to basically set Peacemaker up to take the fall for this whole butterfly situation. Yeah, and it's such genius writing in terms of a long term, because by episode 1 you can believe that, but by episode 6 it feels like such a huge betrayal, because it's like they really did grow fond of each other. Like they were even listening like rock after missions, like going to like a basketball game with like a school team. Like that's what it felt like. Yeah, and no, I mean she does do it. She plants it's the diary that basically makes Peacemaker out to look like a lunatic who just murdered a bunch of people indiscriminately for believing that they were aliens and typical Amanda Waller. Deep state stuff. Deep state things. Typical Amanda Waller, just scumbaggery from Waller that we've grown accustomed to. I mean, even though Peacemaker followed kind of everything that she wanted him to do to a T, she's still, even in the suicide, especially in the suicide, that was her guy in the Suicide Squad to make sure everything was cool. So it just shows this cold-hearted nature, and it also helps Adebayo's character development too, and how far she shifts from her mother too. But again, it's kind of like the Shang-Chi thing of like, we're a makeup of everything that came before, so like even as much as you aren't like your father, some things are still gonna happen like that. It's just morally, what are you gonna do about those gifts that you were given? And by episode 8 we see the gifts that she was given by her mother. Yeah. So Murn is a butterfly. He's painted himself, the butterfly version of Murn, I should say, has painted himself out to be kind of a rebel against the rest of the butterflies, who he says are taking Earth by force. Right, so it's revealed that Murn reveals to the group that when the butterflies came, their initial thing was just to live. They weren't, I don't even believe they were taking over the bodies of humans. They were just living on planet Earth because it had the resources that they need to survive, including water. Not food, but just the water and the atmosphere itself. But then they reveal like that their planet was destroyed the same way that Earth is being destroyed, so it kind of becomes into like an eco-conscious kind of message that it's being delivered. Woke. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So yeah, you reveal that the butterfly's home planet was destroyed, same way that Earth will be destroyed in the future if not the current course doesn't change, and they're starting to infiltrate. Now they're starting to take people over to try to get there, but now it's becoming take them over and do whatever you need to do but to do it, and it's becoming very malicious and very like nobody's going to have free will by the end of this. Yeah, and that's ultimately the big conflict, where the conflict really emerges. Speaking of free will, his dad becomes a bit of a problem. Yeah, right.
So basically, Augie Smith moonlights as a supervillain known as the White Dragon.
He's basically just a white supremacist superhero. That's his whole shtick.
Yeah. Fun, right?
Yeah, he's basically white supremacist Iron Man because the suit's pretty cool.
The suit is very cool.
It's the only thing I'll give him.
It's equal parts Iron Man and Man Ray from SpongeBob.
Yeah, it is Man Ray. Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, gives an amazing, really, really good performance, really tough performance. Like that, it's not even tough love. It's like it's bearable hate that he gives Chris Smith, and it's really well done because
Chris just wants his father to say like one nice thing about him.
Yeah, and he can't.
And he's like, nah, I hate your
guts.
They
share that nice moment when they're talking about how Bloodsport was afraid of rats. He's like, I had a team member who was afraid of rats. He's just like, I can't believe you let that guy shoot you, you idiot.
Well, they're like laughing about it, and his dad's like, tell me he's not the guy who shot you. And Chris is like, oh, yeah, awkward. He's like, man, if only he would have told him what Bloodsport looked like.
Yeah, oh my God.
That would have been as much of a problem.
Yeah, he would have kicked him out of the house right then and there.
I'm just going to say one thing, and this might be controversial. There's no more satisfying scene in TV than seeing a bunch of Klan members being gunned down.
I don't know what's controversial about that. That was an amazing scene. Oh my God, that whole fight with them. Do you see the subtitles for like what they were named? I'm not going to repeat it. But yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah. So basically, what happens with his dad is Peacemaker kills a butterfly early in the season, who obviously the police think was just a woman. Mm-hmm. So the group is like, oh crap, we have to get the heat off of Peacemaker, and Economist makes the decision.
Right. So Economist is the tech guy. So he's like the briefcase laptop guy. That's like
guy in the chair.
Yeah, I hacked into the mainframe guy. Yeah,
he's the guy in the chair. He pins it all on Peacemaker's father.
Right, because he couldn't think of anybody else, and then it launches into possibly, like you said earlier, possibly the best comedy bit in the entire show, aside from the very end of the show, which we'll get into.
Yeah, and that really pisses Augie Smith off. Mm-hmm. He makes a vow right then and there while he's in prison, after he escapes a clash with Vigilante.
And Vigilante, man... he got added to my short list of comic book, like live action comic characters that I wouldn't want to fight. He definitely got on that list real quick.
Yeah, he's gonna kill Chris. That's it. He's done. He's gonna get out of prison and he's gonna kill Chris. And he tries.
Yeah, but John Cena's been in that gym a little bit, and there's gaps in the armor.
So Augie Smith suits up. He gets his clan together, literally, his literal clan, and they pursue Peacemaker and Economist and Vigilante and Eagly. We haven't talked about Eagly. Just the best.
Yeah, he is. Just the most loyal. Like, it's like, Eagly's like a cat, because it's like, not necessarily like, can feel like exact emotion that like dogs can, but like, is loyal because you feed him, And we get a weirdly emotional moment with Eagly. So, Eagly almost dies and
gets swatted by Augie, and you're like, look, man, I can withstand the racism and the hatred for your son.
Don't speak for everybody.
But don't touch the eagle.
Yeah, if the eagle dies, then you die. You're on thin ice, pal. Yeah,
you're already on thin ice.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, for the racism over the last 40 years and having your son killed.
But that's it. Yeah. Now you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
You swatted the eagle. You killed the eagle, presumably. And look, as stupid as it is, it's a good moment.
Yeah, it is.
Where Peacemaker's like, you killed your brother, or you killed my brother, basically. Mm-hmm. Even though I killed my brother technically, but you brought about the circumstances by which my brother died, and now you killed my best friend, my eagle friend, and that's it. You're done, Zo.
You're done.
You're done, pal.
You're done, man.
And then he's not done because Augie almost kills him. Mm-hmm. And then Vigilante shows up.
Yep.
Gaps in the armor.
Yep.
What do we Chekhov's gun?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, when in episode 3, I think it is, really great scene too. Before when he sneaks into the house and then the old man jumps off and he goes into the rant about Batman. You want to talk about his perspective on all the other heroes real quick?
He hates them all.
Yeah, he hates every other hero. It's because he's not touted.
He's not a hero.
Yeah, he's not, and he's never going to be touted as one. He was in jail for a little bit.
He gets made fun of at the show and tell. Right. Presentation.
That show and tell presentation was great.
So good.
All at the end when the girl's like, "You might be my father," it's like, "Okay."
The teacher's like, "Okay."
Yeah, let's end this real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's never going to be regarded as a hero. I mean, he apprehended Kite Man, and he leaves that newspaper clipping because it reminds him of like his first capture was, him finally being a hero, like a person his father could be proud of. He stopped the crime, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
You're not Superman, you're not Batman, you're not Wonder Woman. You don't have these like glorious, stories to kind of, help prop yourself up. You're just kind of a guy that's in this crazy suit and this crazy helmet that just kills people all the time.
So he, Vigilante gets Augie off of him, and then we get the old showdown with the scumbag dad who's like, "What are you gonna do? Shoot me in the head?" And yep. He shoots him in the head.
Yep. Last person he kills.
Yeah.
Last human that he kills.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's going to be the last human he kills, period.
I don't know, but real satisfying moment. Good, I'm glad that guy's dead.
Yeah. You won't be missed.
No, not at all. But he does come back, kind of the Spectre in Peacemaker's brain is the role. I wonder if we're going to see him next season.
I think we will. I think that's too big of an actor, and I think the role was so potent that you can't forget about that for season 2, and it's going to affect Chris's mind, because what I think this is going to divulge into is like Chris going to not kill somebody. He's going to be like, "Look at you. You can't even do, like, you can't do the only thing that I thought you were decent at now." So I think that's where that's going to kind of head toward. Yeah,
and so he's dead, and then we have the big fight for the future of humanity, basically, which is ultimately what every superhero show devolves into, the big fight for the future of humanity.
Wait, before we talk about the finale, we forgot one character that might be one of the funnier characters, and that's Judo Master.
Oh, yeah.
So Judo Master's about 4'11", and it's just... I thought about this because I was watching it late last night. I was just rewatching the whole show. He's more of like a show don't tell character, and like not every character needs like a full out, origin story, this, that to happen. It's just sometimes cool to just throw characters in there. And again, just a ridiculous character to throw in there.
He's the recurring kind of just
thorn in your side.
Yeah, he's like the Team Rocket of this show.
Right.
He just shows up and just fights.
Right, yeah.
And I think when he attacks, the last fight that he has is with Harcourt and Adebayo, and she goes, "That's the last sucker punch you're getting in."
Right.
And that's how you feel as like a viewer too. You're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. Do you mind?
Like he's always escaping. His like restraint.
Got shot in the chest and lived, and was just eating his hot Cheetos. That's his whole thing. He just eats hot Cheetos and fights. Just a ridiculous, circulation of characters that's been thrown in over the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and each and every single one, I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, so we get to the end. I mean, the big thing is the butterflies have transported a giant alien kaiju cow thing to Earth to give them sustenance, and then their plan is to transport it elsewhere to live. So they're doing that. And then the group is all reunited. Peacemaker and Adebayo are kind of cold because she set him up to take the fall for this whole thing. But that's quickly kind of resolved in a way. And then, paves way for the big shootout, the big finale, which is Peacemaker and company versus the Butterflies.
Right. And thank God they did that, because it's good cannon fodder too. So it's like some of the characters, like the two detectives, you have Mern's man on the inside, they all get turned, and it's fine because now they can, you care about them enough. So like if they die, you're like, oh, that kind of sucks that they were taken over and they died, but it's not enough where I'm like, okay, they can't be killed at all. So great cannon fodder. And then the theme song of this show plays and just launches into one of the greatest, the fight scenes in the show are really well done. Like I said, the camera movement's really done. Like what it does is like once you land a hit, the camera like kind of jerks a little bit when it happens. Like, so you feel the hit when that happens.
There's a lot of tight action in this.
Action, not a lot of cuts in the action too. Just you really can tell they balance that emotion with that action really well.
Yeah, and then this ending sequence is very reminiscent of Peacemaker and Bloodsport's kind of dissection of the Corto Maltesian forces in Suicide Squad, where it's just the heroes just running and gunning and doing whatever they can to get, destroy the cow thing, monster.
Right.
Harcourt is shot.
Vigilante's shot. Economist breaks his leg because he's unathletic.
And he falls over a fence.
Yeah, he just falls over a fence and snaps his leg in half.
Adebayo is weirdly proficient with guns.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, this is the whole coming to the head of her character growth in the show is like I said before, like she already understands that she's not Waller, but like she can't escape the fact, because she says it multiple times in the show, like I'm not made for this, and then she's finally succumbs to it. She says I am made for this, even if I don't want to be. I don't have to be my mother to be made for this. So she's just wrecking shop, like she's just running up on butterflies. She's acting like John Wick. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then Peacemaker gets down. He confronts the I guess butterfly that he established a bond with.
Yeah, Goff. So we'll just call it Goff to make it simple.
Goff, who was the butterfly who possessed the senator.
Who was the main butterfly in all of this.
the lead butterfly.
Right.
And she spins him this story that you talked about earlier about how the butterflies are actually trying to save Earth, and she appeals to his sense of justice, and to no avail. Peacemaker kills, the host, and then uses Adebayo as a human torpedo,
right,
to destroy the cow. And then, he kind of has a real crisis of conscience about, like, did I just doom us all?
Right. Or did I do the right thing, because people deserve a little bit of free... I didn't have free will when I was a kid. My father turned myself, and like, that's like they're kind of like the, the balance for each other. Like, it's, if the butterflies are like the human race's parents, then Augie's Chris's parent. Like, he's kind of, guiding them towards this possibly dark path. And even if some good might come out of it, like Chris being a vigilante that is out just to, deter crime, how good is it going to be if you're teaching him these moral lessons that, aren't too great? Like, we can kill any human we want to because we have the power to. And
then, Adebayo asks him, like, how did you make that decision? He said, because you're my friends, basically, which is the big arc.
The James Gunn special.
Yeah, we talked a bit last week when we talked about Book of Boba Fett, how we weren't really sure what arc Boba went on throughout the season. Like, it kind of felt like he ended where he started. Right. Just fought a bit. The arc for Christopher Smith is apparent. You know what I mean? You look at the character in episode 8, you look at the character in episode 1, same on the outside, but different, mentally and on the inside, and that's all you could ask for at the end of the day for a character. Right. Is, did we go on a journey? Did they change in any significant way? In his case, yeah.
Right. And you can look at any character in this show, same thing. Like, Economist went from, he probably felt that his whole life. Like, he was the odd man out. Like, he was just a guy that was proficient with computers, but never really got a chance to, be, friends with a whole bunch of people at the same time. And he finally found all you need is a little bit of common ground. And they came from rock music that they used really well in the show to, make him and Peacemaker friends at the end of the day. Him and Adebayo, like I said earlier, like their parents, not getting some skills from their parents, but not taking, the moral side of what their parents were giving them. And then Harcourt obviously is just kind of his love interest the whole time, more or less.
Yeah.
And yeah, just somebody that he kind of grew fond of, like her nature, and kind of somebody that's like, same thing with her father. She said, he gave me a gun when I was so young, and look what it turned me into.
And her arc as well, being kind of distant from everybody else. And then there's that big moment where she creates the group chat with them.
Yeah.
And takes the picture.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's great, yeah.
And yeah, like you said, they all of them, all that main cast, Assault.
Vigilante too, and Vigilante might be the most interesting outside of like with the side characters, because it's really hard to develop a psychopath, because they already, like, it doesn't really matter what sort of outside force hits them. They're going to be the same pretty much. But his is interesting because his whole personality is based off of Peacemaker and like his love for Peacemaker. So it's like, you can't just sit here and make fun of me. Like, he starts to become a little bit more, just a little bit, but because it would completely break his character if he just flipped. But like, he starts to become a little bit more human. Like, he doesn't kill those nurses at the hospital. He asks before he kills them. Like, you can kind of feel him, getting a little bit more emotion infused in himself.
Yep. So you want to talk about the ending?
Yeah. So they kill the cow. The butterflies in that ranch are all dead, and then presumably all the butterflies on Earth are going to die only in a matter of time, because they can't survive without that amber fluid. So cool, they're leaving. He's carrying Harcourt out. You got your emotional music. You got your slow-mo walk. They saved the day. They did it. Cool. A little earlier in the episode, Adebayo was like, hey mom, we're in way over our head. This isn't just like a Suicide Squad or we need the Justice League. Like, they are legitimately about to take over the earth if we don't stop them. And then she puts Harcourt in charge. It's just like, how short notice is everything. She's just like, pretty short notice, and then we just cut, and then it's just the next thing.
And it's just, you take it as just another throwaway.
Right, like, just like a cool continuity universe, thing.
And also kind of hanging a lantern on that question that literally everybody asks.
Right. Where's the group? Where's the group? Where's the main guys?
Where's the Avengers? Where's the Justice League?
Yeah.
And you just think it's that fun little reference.
Right. And then he's carrying Harcourt out. They're gotta get and everything's over. It's done. And then, lo and behold...
There's a lightning strike,
right.
like, off-screen.
Right. And then the Flash, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Superman show up. I did not think that we had the budget for this. I didn't think that this is something that was possible. And, like, the way they're framed at the beginning is just like, okay, this is cool. They're just going to walk by him and the show's going to end. He's going to, get his hate jokes off on them about,
relate, you dickheads.
Yeah. Right. And then... Again, lo and behold, Jason Momoa turns his freaking head, and it's actually him and Ezra Miller. So Jason Momoa, and it's funny because the two of them actually, have movies coming out.
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
Goes, Peacemaker goes, "Go F another fish, asshole."
Yeah,
says to Aquaman because that was like the running gag that Aquaman,
Yeah, they each had what was Superman's an alien, so he's into some weird fetishes.
Yeah.
Green arrows, I don't know what about him.
Something at the Brony convention.
Yeah. Who else do you got?
Is kind of a fun in joke because there is a photo of Stephen Amell.
Mm-hmm.
So,
who else do you got? You got.
He said did he have a fling with Wonder Woman?
I think that's what he was trying to say. It's definitely not true, but...
And I figured...
He just said the Flash is just a jerk.
Yeah, the Flash is a loser.
Yeah, he's just an unbearable jerk.
Says to a girl wearing a Flash t-shirt.
Right, yeah. Right. So yeah, the Justice League is there. They're there to help save the day, and he's just like, too late. You guys, we already did what we needed to do. Makes his fish joke to Aquaman. Aquaman's just, I hate that rumor.
And it's Jason Momoa.
It is Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller. It's the actual two of them.
Ezra Miller, who will never turn down a check to cameo as the Flash in anything.
Right. It's not a rumor, is it? And then he's just like, oh.
F you, Barry.
Yeah.
No Henry Cavill, no Gal Gadot.
Yeah. And then more importantly, possibly...
No Batman at all.
No Batman and no Cyborg at all. So you can interpret that one of two ways. I guess the simple term is like, maybe they're just, back doing something or just, hacking. Who cares? But the bigger burning question is, in a week we're going to see this new Batman movie. So there's no DCEU Batman. Ben Affleck's done after The Flash. And Ray Fisher's not touching a DC movie ever again.
So the Batman thing. It feels like, based on the last promo that DC did, that they want Robert Pattinson to be the face of Batman.
Right.
Because he's in that promo with Ezra Miller's Flash. He's in that promo with Jason Momoa's Aquaman. He's in that promo with Black Adam. Mm-hmm. And it's him. That's who the Batman is in that promo. So that's what it feels like. But then also Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are in the Flash movie. So once again, we're going down the Batman rabbit hole.
Right. I don't know if they're trying to get a Crisis on Infinite Earths type of thing out of this. I don't know what the plan is. Maybe there is no plan. Maybe they're just going with the flow a little bit.
But, so the Justice League cameos.
Yeah. Insane. I was
Peacemaker.
So crazy. I was like, there's no way that this is actually a real thing that's happening in a Peacemaker show.
People were mad?
Yeah, people were really upset. There was, the group of people that were like, oh, this is hilarious, because, this is...
Because it is?
Yeah, because it is. It's just for jokes. I don't think it's meant to be taken as seriously as some people did.
People got mad that Aquaman cursed, but... didn't get mad when Batman cursed?
That's the first thing I thought about when that happened. I was like, you guys were so cool about, finally an R-rated Justice League where, characters might curse. Ray Fisher curses, and it's like, yeah, dark, edgy version. And then the show that's legitimately, rated, the R of R's happens, and they're in it.
Gets chainsawed down.
Yeah, and then Aquaman also curses, then you're like, oh, this isn't the Justice League. I'm like, what happened to the movie that just happened?
Also, if any of those guys is going to curse...
It's Aquaman.
It's going to be Jason Momoa.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. These people need to get a grip.
Yeah.
Also, give James Gunn a Justice League movie? Question mark?
James Gunn's pulling a Jack Kirby right now. He's going from Marvel to DC.
Yeah, so, after Guardians 3 and the Guardians 3 holiday special...
In the I Am Groot. show.
And I Am Groot thing, he's done with Marvel.
And I think DC is gonna Jon Favreau / Dave Filoni him for DC.
If they don't, they should.
Agree.
Because he's put out 2 of the best properties so far.
Yep. I think he's got a rare opportunity to kind of reshape the DCU. And, I think people are getting misconstrued that everything that he does is rated R. I mean, he made one of the best superhero movies with a PG-13 rating.
He gave us Baby Groot,
he did. He gave us a softer PG-13 movie. Like, it's just a really family-oriented movie with some great stuff and some great emotion. You can't
put a rating on the character work that he does.
No, you can't.
Which I think, as far as when it comes to what he's done with superhero movies, his character work is, almost bar none with anyone else. Mm-hmm. He makes you care about literally every character that he puts in front of you, which is a talent.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And that goes out to penmanship and how well he is, screenwriting.
And he's coming back for next season. He's directing every episode of season 2.
I thought that was super interesting. I wonder if we're going to get something akin to The Mandalorian season 2, where maybe it's not cameo this season, but I wouldn't put it past the success of this show if maybe even we see like an Aquaman show up for like a episode or something to help him out and just be like, you are a bumbling idiot. I don't know how you survived like this whole thing. And like, I'm a part of the Justice League. And he's just like, look what I was able to stop an alien invasion. And he's just like, I also was able to stop an alien invasion. So that's going to be fun. But I could definitely see some more characters. I can't wait to see Vigilante come back. I want to see if they're going to grow him a little bit more and see what more that he has. He might turn into a bona fide just star after this. So.
Yeah, I mean, Freddie Stroma's been around. Mm-hmm. If you look at his IMDb, he has a couple of performances. You're like, oh yeah, he's been in 3 Harry Potter movies. He's been in Game of Thrones. The guy's been around. Yeah. But this is that breakout star making performance, that has all eyes on him, all people talking about him, because obviously John Cena is John Cena, even though, as you alluded to earlier, probably his best work, to date.
Yeah, his range was just so broad, but it was also really tight. Like, it was just, he can flip emotion like from the comedy, which this really is a comedy show. And I don't even feel comfortable saying it was just a definitive comedy show too. Like, no. I'm just rolling like the clips and it's Economist talking about his beard, and I'm like, why do I care so much about this guy that could easily just die right here about him dyeing his beard? But it's
you can substitute that moment with any moment from Guardians of the Galaxy. It's James Gunn's gift. It's his gift as a writer, is being able to draw emotion out of the smallest moments, and that's what makes his work so great. In the end, it's those little moments that you remember. You know what I mean? As much as you appreciate the grand storytelling, you appreciate the smaller moments even more, because that's where the weave of the character relationships is in those small moments. Right. I think back to the Suicide Squad where they're all on the bus together.
Right. Yeah, that was I said it in the Suicide Squad review. That was probably my favorite scene that wasn't action in that whole movie. It was something that's so small, but it's so essential to the story. As if it was left out, like, that movie's completely different if that's left out, but he has the wherewithal to remember, like, we need to do this. Like, we need to care about these people because they are criminals after all. Like, they can easily die, and that it is what it is, but like, they need to grow a little bit more and they need to be more complex, because that's who we are. We're complex beings on purpose.
Yeah. So that's Peacemaker in a nutshell. Really good. Can't recommend it highly enough.
Was not expecting it to be this good. I thought it was going to be pretty cool, pretty fun. The promos never said oh, this is going to be must-watch television. Then that first episode hits and you're like, oh yeah, this is must-watch television. That episode 5 to 8, that second half really ramps up. It ramps up all the emotion. It ramps up all the urgency a little bit more. It's really well done.
Mm-hmm. And it's, drawing the parallel to the show that we reviewed last week with Book of Boba Fett, I wasn't really anticipating Boba Fett versus the Pike Syndicate.
No.
It didn't feel like I needed that. You needed it as far as needing it for 10 the show, but I didn't have any emotional stakes in that conflict. Yeah. Where this, I wanted to see Peacemaker's dad get his comeuppance.
Right. What I really needed in Boba Fett was more Mandalorian. That's what they spun it as, and it was unfortunate for the title character. It's unfortunate. Yeah. But it lives up to the hype of your title character that needs some work from the previous project. It needs some work to kind of, get him to be loved and get him to be remembered.
Yeah, really good redemption story for that character. in a place, you know, you ask yourself, how is he going to redeem himself from where he left off in the Suicide Squad?
Because it was near irredeemable. It was right on the cusp because he almost killed one of our most beloved characters from that movie.
And then, you know, you get your answer. Mm-hmm. The answer in how to redeem someone like that is get inside their head and what makes them tick. You know, make you care about them and make them go through a change. And that's what happens in this show. And it's really well done. John Cena's great. I hope he sticks. He's obviously sticking around for a season 2 of Peacemaker, but I hope he sticks around in the greater DCEU. Yeah. I'd like to see that character interact with
these wrestlers, people. Man, are really making a name. Dave Bautista, Dwayne Johnson's about to, you know, take over the DCEU in a little bit, and John Cena, like, they're really doing great work for themselves. So
yeah. Got any predictions kind of for where season 2 can go?
No, I just think the cameos to actual characters in season 2 are going to get bigger. I think they're going to double. The same thing with The Mandalorian. They're going to double down on the success of a character we've never seen before and really make sure like they get a lot of work in terms of like getting the bigger universe to kind of revolve around them a little bit more. And I think that you know what would be cool because of where the Justice League is, like they had this whole thing at the end of the Snyder Cut with, you know, here's the table, like the, you know, the famous Justice League table where they all sit at. Like, I really want to see if like it gets to the point where like he applies for the Justice League. That would be kind of funny. Like, well, I can fight with these guys. Like, you know what? You guys weren't in time to be there for me. You know what? I'm going to see if maybe I can help you guys out a little bit. And then be like, absolutely not. Like, you're not going to be with us. Like, and then be like, an audition almost. Like, that would be kind of cool for next season. Like, him auditioning as if he were to be in the Justice League and, like, maybe get one of those Justice League characters to be with him. I would have, if the stuff with Ray Fisher never happened, I think that would have been an interesting character to have with him, would be Cyborg. But, I mean, Aquaman, I don't think Jason Momoa would do that for an extended period of time. But, again, you never know. Ezra Miller might be one that might stick around for a little bit with something like this, but we'll see. Maybe we even get a live action Green Arrow because we talked about it. That would be an interesting character with Vigilante too. Like the three of them, like, and Green Arrow being like, it'd be cool. Like also to give a character like that they immediately love, like Harcourt, like Economist, Ida By, like they love this new character that's there, and they're like, what happened to like us? Like that happened last season. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, so. I think that's a good call. I could see kind of like an Amanda Waller kind of subplot developing for next season because, you know, what we didn't get to was Adebayo basically shedding light on what Argus has been doing with Task Force X.
Big deal. Like, yeah, so she outs fully the Task Force X. Like, the Suicide Squad is now public knowledge to everybody. She reveals that she's Amanda Waller's daughter and that Amanda Waller is like a savage human being that sent
so
these criminals. I could see Waller
kind of getting involved. Maybe she sends like a person after him. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe she sends Bloodsport after him.
Yeah, I think because, and then the other thing that I want to talk about too is James Gunn's also doing another Suicide Squad spinoff, which I think they were testing the waters because I think, and not anything against John Cena, but in terms of acting and like the impact that the character had, I mean, Bloodsport had much bigger of an impact because he essentially was the main character, the point of view character of the Suicide Squad. So I think that's who the other spinoff show is. If it's not the other spinoff show, then I can definitely see Idris Elba stepping in here to be like, all right, well, look what you just did. Like, you just outed all of us, and I have a daughter, so now this needs to be taken care of, because, like, some bigger fish are after me now.
And also, you could see Bloodsport being the type of person being like, oh, this guy hasn't changed.
Right, yeah, because he's the guy that saw the worst of Christopher Smith, like, up close and personal. They've only gotten, like, the mid to, like, you know, good stuff from him. They've not gotten the bad stuff. Like, he's seen him kill his friend Rick Flag. He's seen him,
almost kill a girl.
Yeah, like not a child, but a child. Like,
a young woman.
Yeah, a young woman. Like, you see, like, the savagery of this man. So that would be a really interesting point of, like, it would, like, it doesn't regress his character, right? It just adds, like, a different antagonistic force to him.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that would make you realize, like, oh yeah, like, you know, as much as we like Peacemaker, he still hasn't really reconciled for the things that he's done, particularly when he was in Task Force X. You know what I mean? Like, he betrayed them. He betrayed his team.
Right.
You know, as much as he didn't betray this team, he betrayed his other team. And I think introducing Bloodsport as kind of like a tertiary antagonist could be interesting for a season 2.
Right.
But yeah, can't say I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Can't say I'm not looking forward to what James Gunn does in the future with DC, because it seems like you hand that guy a source and he will use it for everything it's worth and then some.
What do you think about him doing anything with Superman? I was thinking about this, actually.
Before it.
I would be a little bit for it too. And if you were to get Superman, like, I've always talked about this for a little bit. We kind of need to, if we're going to do this to Henry Cavill, which you know how I feel about this, if we're going to do this to him, give him the Logan send-off if we're going to do this. So I always said All-Star Superman's the route to go. And I think it's because of Grant Morrison and the way he went about All-Star Superman, because Grant Morrison's a really out-of-the-box, unorthodox writer, just like James Gunn is. Like, he's really, like, it's not normal, like, some of the stuff that he puts in his stories for, like, these more normal, it's crazy to say normal characters for superheroes, but, yeah, I think that would be interesting. Like, give James Gunn, like, the send-off for Superman if you're going to do it, and let him have the new era of the DCEU. Like, let him be, if he's not going to be directing everything, have him write some stuff and just have him be executive producer.
Yeah,
just
let him be the Jon Favreau, as you said. The Jon Favreau, or what the Russo brothers were to the Avengers and to Captain America. Let James Gunn, if he wants to.
Right,
I mean, that's all.
And it's a big,
Commitment.
play, because like we said earlier, like, cool, the Avengers are the Avengers. We got some of the highest grossing movies out of it, and some of the biggest continuous stories, but, like, now you're dealing with, like, these superheroes. Like, you're dealing with Superman, with Batman, with Wonder Woman. Like, these are, like, going back to, like, the 30s and 40s. Like, these are the foundational superheroes. So it's a big play. And also the Schneider fans on top of that are immediately going to combat you on this. Like, they're not going to want this right out of the gate. So it's something to kind of also look out for. But like I said, he's dealt through controversy. Man, he's really given us some stories and some characters to really fall in love with over the last how many years since the original Guardians? So the last 8 years. So. Yeah.
I can't imagine that Warner Brothers isn't looking at the reception of Peacemaker and being like, wait a minute, one of our things is getting universal acclaim?
Our last two things, that thing and right.
We're going to need this guy to do more stuff for us. Right. So here's $1 bajillion, James Gunn. Go make us some money.
Right. Yeah, I hope he just gets some bigger characters. I think that would be really cool for him.
Agreed. So, yeah, that's ties in on Peacemaker, and we're looking right ahead to one thing and one thing only.
I wish I could play the theme, but copywriting, so that theme makes me want to run through a brick wall. I was watching all the promos, like, it feels real now, so I'm in the process of, so how they did it, they gave, like, this kind of 3-book arc, basically, are the foundations of this new Batman story. So it's Batman Year One, Batman The Long Halloween, and Batman Ego. And I thought Ego was really interesting because Ego is where kind of Batman splits off from Bruce Wayne for a little bit after something happens, and he's like, he really takes a look of, like, what's the effect of this. And then obviously Year One, Jim Gordon's introduction into Gotham, him being our point of view character with the vigilante Batman at the time, not the hero Batman, kind of in the city, failing almost. And then The Long Halloween, I mean, one of the most incredible stories, period, in all of comics too. So those being the foundational pieces. And you know what I've been saying, because I didn't really watch anything over the last week, so I'll kind of take this time to talk about the Batman a little bit. Everybody's been talking about, you have Robert Pattinson, the music's great, cool, the fight scenes looks good, but it's really, like, Matt Reeves' influence on this. Like, they were doing an interview, and, like, I think Colin Farrell said, like, he called Matt Reeves, like, when they were done, like, filming and stuff, just to make sure he was okay, because how hard he was working. You could feel that in the production value, like, the landscapes of this movie. Like, they shot so much on location. Somebody made a really good point too that I really admired. Like, a lot of these movies nowadays, and a lot of the MCU movies, like, they send these movies and, like, they shoot them with blue screens or green screens behind you, and then they send it to somebody else to finish. But now when you're doing it, like, I'm physically looking at, like, especially when you're on location, I'm physically looking at what I'm going to shoot and what I want my vision to be. And I think we've gotten 4 clips so far from this movie. We've gotten 4 trailers. I think we've gotten the 3 main trailers and then the final trailer. Everything about this movie, down to the color grading, that's, like, specific film look. I'm pretty sure it got, so I can't remember what the specific name is, but it's like this artistic certification that certain films get. This movie got one, and it hasn't even come out yet. So that is already just telling me what kind of movie we're getting ready to see.
Yeah. So full kind of peek behind the curtain here. We're not quite clear on our schedule next week.
Yeah.
Because these episodes come out on Wednesdays. We record them, so we're recording this on Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday? Mm-hmm. Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, because it's 2/22/22.
So
I should watch Tenet because of that.
So through, by hook or by crook, or because we are now a certified major podcasting platform, we are going to be seeing Batman on the day that we would normally record. which would be March 1st.
I think that's the day before. Is that the Tuesday or the Monday?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, correct, yeah. Right.
So we're not quite clear on what next week's episode is going to look like. We think it's going to be a non-spoiler
correct
review.
It's going to be the Batman preview / those 3 books that I talked about, dive in and / previous Batman's dive. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a full out the Batman preview.
Yeah. And
the stranglehold he has over the world, because
we may have something. Maybe we'll record a little something extra next week. Mm-hmm. That'll be not a. I guess you would call it a special edition of the Project Infinite podcast. Right. That would be probably a full non-spoiler review.
Yes, correct.
Of the Batman, because obviously having had seen it 3 days before official release,
or we're seeing it 3 days before official release.
We're not really going to touch anything that would be remotely close to spoiler territory. Probably just talk about performances, probably how it's shot, and that would probably be it. So it wouldn't be a full episode. If anything, our Batman review would probably be maybe a 30-minute episode, if that.
Right.
So look forward to potentially 2 episodes of this next week. One being a preview for Batman, and one being a shorter kind of special edition, non-spoiler Batman review. Would be what I would say.
Yeah. The hype is becoming real. It was 3 a.m. last night, and I just threw on the first trailer, and then I went down a rabbit hole to getting to listening to comic arcs and the retrospective of Batman as a character and as a psyche of Batman. That's how it just, as many jokes as I make about Batman, he truly is one of the most incredible fictional characters that's ever been created, because he's the surrogate for humans in a fantastical world. Mm-hmm. And it's really being shown through Robert Pattinson. And like I said, from the second he got casted, I was on board because of his work. That's not named Twilight, that people just refuse to watch. So yeah, I'm glad Tenet was something that people can kind of see his ability outside of, doing something when he was in his early 20s.
Yep.
So yeah, he's a really incredible actor. The cast of that movie, it's just, I always challenge people to listen to interviews of what they do, and that's when you can really tell who's into it and who's what filmmakers and what producers are really into the project they're making and the artistry, or versus who's just trying to pump something out. And this really feels like Matt Reeves is it feels like he lives in Gotham. That's how it feels. He just has a full out control over not only the setting, it's your 3 building blocks, it's the plot, setting, characters. He has a control over the characters, he has control over the setting and the plot. Everything is going to culminate into an incredible film, I think.
It's hard. It's so hard for me to set expectations on anything. I usually try not to, because I don't want to go in there with any type of inherent bias about, I'm expecting this thing to be really good, and then coming out of it and either being disappointed or pretending that it's better than it actually is, because to meet my own expectations, I'll kind of grade it on a curve. But it's hard to look at this and not think it's going to be special.
There's just, I said this to somebody, there's something about this. There's just something that I can't put my finger on about this. This feels so much different than all the comic book properties that we get, or just movies in general. This just feels elevated. It feels like a movie. It feels like this incredible film that we're about to get. That's that normally, I just think it's because it has superhero characters in it. People are well, let's hold on from saying that. I feel something about this movie.
Agreed. Yeah. So you said you kind of use your time to talk about Batman because you haven't seen much.
Yeah, I was reading a little Batman. I was watching Batman Begins today, so I've been on a Batman kick. Yeah. I'm really ramping up for this movie and for this early release. You're welcome.
So I saw Uncharted over the weekend.
I did not see Uncharted.
That's fine. It's fun. It's fun, man. It was good fun. I know a lot of people were skeptical of Tom Holland's casting as Nathan Drake. And there is a bit of that in the beginning of the movie. It takes you a little bit to get settled into what he's trying to do. But towards the end of the film, I think you feel it. You feel the Nathan Drake-ness in him, the kind of that suave kind of Han Solo meets Indiana Jones. I know it's funny because they're both Harrison Ford characters, but that's basically who Nathan Drake is. He's basically a modern-day Indiana Jones. Mark Wahlberg is I didn't have expectations for him to be like Sully from the games. I expected him to be Mark Wahlberg, and he was Mark Wahlberg, which is not a detriment. I think the movie's built on 2 things. It's built on over-the-top action sequences, and it's built on the chemistry between Wahlberg and Tom Holland, and they're good together. They're funny together. The plot is kind of, it's okay. Antonio Banderas is a fine villain.
Is he reaching into Bond territory?
Nah, yeah, a little bit. And then there's a couple other villains that I'm not going to spoil. Does a good job of paying homage to the games. Nolan North, who is the voice actor for Nathan Drake, is in the movie.
Oh, nice.
He cameos in the film as just a beachgoer. He happens upon Tom Holland and the other Chloe Fraser, who is kind of like their kind of third member of their group, and he goes, "Oh, you guys look like you've been through hell." He's like, "Would you fall out of a plane and have to be stranded in the ocean?" He's like, yeah, "I've done that a few times." So, good kind of homage to the games. Apparently a surprise hit for Sony.
Yeah,
they're very happy with the performance of it.
Yeah, the box office numbers have been really positive for them, which is going to prompt some sequels, which, I mean, Uncharted, that's, if you need to pump sequels out, that's a video game that you can.
Yeah, spoiler alert, there is a post-credit scene that directly sets up Uncharted 1. So I think that would probably be the plot of a sequel, will be to follow the plot of the first game.
Right.
But it was fun. It's a fun, it's a tight 2 hours. Nothing game breaking. It's not gonna win any awards. It's not, it's not one of those movies. It's a fun action flick that if you want to kill 2 hours and have a fun time with one of, I shouldn't say America's hottest actors because he's British, but
the world's,
one of the world's preeminent actors today, and Tom Holland. Go see it because it's fun. I enjoyed it. As a fan of both the games and just the character. It's so bizarre going to see a movie and they have the credit kind of title card of the production studios, and you see freaking Kratos and Nathan Drake, and it's like PlayStation Studios.
Oh, did it really say that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I don't want to just say it's cool, but that's
yeah. It's an MCU-esque kind of logo of it's Nathan Drake, it's Kratos from God of War.
Yeah, I think
it's Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, and it's Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us.
I think that brings up the bigger question, which I guess I've been getting really introspective ever since Spider-Man No Way Home about this age of nostalgia we live in, especially after the Jurassic World trailer. You have Ghostbusters, you have Spider-Man. Like, we're really in like this MCU-esque type of world that people are afraid of that every property is going to start to turn into this. And I can, as soon as you said that, I felt that. I'm like, oh, we need a post-credit scene. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, this is also the setup for one of the bigger franchises without anything that needed to happen in any other franchise.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to get it's not going to be, it's not going to become a PlayStation cinematic universe.
No, yeah.
Like Kratos and Nathan Drake are never going to cross paths. Right. It was just funny. It was just really surreal to see that kind of like opening credit sequence. It was a Marvel-esque opening sequence with PlayStation characters for a movie. What?
Sad they didn't put Jin Sakai in there.
Oh no, he was.
Yes,
Jin Sakai was also featured in that opening.
Listen here, PlayStation Studios. When you guys make this Ghost of Tsushima movie, just get the guy that played Jin Sakai and have him be. There's no need to search for an actor for this.
Yeah, so
it's very simple.
Yeah, and that goes to what PlayStation Studios is, I guess, up to. I'm assuming they're going to have a hand in The Last of Us.
Yeah, and I think the big one that they're trying to build towards, in my opinion, is probably going to be God of War. They're going to try to get like a really well done God of War movie done. Yeah,
so they're doing the Last of Us TV show, which HBO has confirmed will not be releasing.
Oh yeah, that was some pretty big news last week that I.
But that's obviously a big one. HBO is also doing Ghost of Tsushima. Or no?
No, I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but I think that's just going to be a movie itself that's not on. I'm pretty sure it's not. Yeah, I don't think it's that. Could be wrong, though.
I'd have to look. Everything we know about the Ghost of Tsushima movie. Sucker Punch Productions, that's the game. I don't think it says.
I mean, if you think Sucker Punch, then.
Yeah, it doesn't say who's developing it. The John Wick director is the director.
Okay, so the action sequences, I assume, are going to be super tight, which you kind of need out of any samurai IP that you do. You're going to need the action sequences to kind of be more on the side of one takes and a lot of longer takes. That's going to be real fun.
Yeah, so we don't have a studio yet, other than obviously PlayStation, but we don't have because like Paramount did Uncharted.
Right.
But, so, no studio yet, but look, Sony's moving full steam ahead with these PlayStation-based games, and Uncharted got them money, so I think that's probably positive for them. I'm imagining this Last of Us show is probably going to do really well on HBO. Pedro Pascal seems really happy with it for what, everything he said about it.
And if he's happy with something, more often than not, it's probably going to be good.
Yeah, so he seems very happy with how that turned out. And then, like we said, Ghost of Tsushima. I'm assuming, like you said, God of War is probably what they're ramping up for.
Yeah, I think that's the one they're really trying to get right. So.
And I could honestly, seeing Aloy in that opening title sequence makes me think they're going to do something with Horizon Zero Dawn.
That would be a really cool movie, I think, if they get the right studio to kind of take it on and take that, because it is a challenge to kind of build that kind of world, because it's set in the future, correct?
Far future, yeah.
Right.
Earth, yeah. Far future of Earth, yeah.
So I think something like that would be really interesting to kind of develop. It's just, there's a little bit of fear because usually those don't work, like the far, far future where humanity is like drastically changed. Sometimes they don't work. And then adding the, anxiety of being being a video game movie that don't have the greatest track record.
Yeah, it was just like I said, there's nothing officially with that, but seeing Aloy in that opening title card of the PlayStation Studios thing makes me think they probably have something possibly lined up for Horizon.
Right.
Speaking of that, I have been playing Horizon Forbidden West. It's finally out. It's amazing.
Is it? I saw that screen grab you had.
It's easily the best looking game I've played so far on PlayStation 5. Really uses the full force of that system to its highest potential. The story is really compelling once you understand what's going on, especially from Horizon Zero Dawn. Coming off of that, they didn't miss a beat. They came out with another great single-player campaign-driven experience, which is their bread and butter.
Nice.
So Horizon Forbidden West, very good so far through some, I don't know, maybe 8 hours I've played of it so far. So that would be my recommendation for the week. But aside from that, you can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can find us on Facebook. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Pandora. Radio. We're everywhere. We're everywhere, and we're getting exclusive premieres now.
Yes, we are. Yes. This is all going to lead up to... Listen, if we're not at the point when Oppenheimer comes out where we don't get that... Once I get that email, or like the channel gets the email that says you've been exclusively invited to the premiere of Oppenheimer, that's how we're going to know.
That's how we know we made it.
So help us out. So give us a like, make sure you share, make sure you download every episode. Tell your friend, tell your grandma, tell your grandma's kids...
Tell the guy in the grocery store.
Yeah, tell the guy in the grocery store. Tell the guy next to that guy in the grocery store. Just tell everybody.
You can follow us on Instagram.
At the Project Infinite Pod.
Thank you. Next week, Batman week.
The Batman. It's finally here.
I say this all the time, but we talk about this stuff, and then it feels like by us talking about this stuff, it makes it come so much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember, all the stuff we did prior to Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right. Dune is another one, because Dune was like the inception of this whole thing.
Yeah, and then, lo and behold, it's like next week Spider-Man's out. We're like, whoa!
What? It's December, and now it's March. And that movie got delayed because we were already supposed to see... There's another Earth where we already saw the Batman.
So, yeah, that's... Oh, man, I'm really looking forward to Batman.
Me too. Jeffrey... It's weird, I was just thinking about Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, because I saw French Dispatch, and, Jeffrey Wright has, the most intoxicating voice I've ever heard. It's incredible. He's, one of my favorite actors on...
Are you simping for Jeffrey Wright?
I think I am. But by the time this movie comes out, I told you, I'm going to apologize for who I'm going to be next week, because once I see this movie, I'm going to act different when this movie comes out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the greatest movie of all time. I'm just prepping myself for this.
Oh, man.
I just want to rattle off names like Peacemaker now. LeBron James. I'm just going to rattle off the whole All-Star 75 list.
You realize how hard that is?
Yeah.
What John Cena's in
That's incredible. I couldn't do that now.
No, me either.
I'm trying to think. All right, let me close my eyes and try. I'm just going to name athletes, I guess. I don't know. This is tough. Batman, Clark Kent, LeBron James... Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan. Oh, he said those. It's difficult. It's tough. Great job, John Cena. You really killed it as Peacemaker. Not only did you physically kill people as Peacemaker, you killed the role too.
the Freddie Stromo of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll take it. I'm glad you didn't give me Vigilante, because Vigilante's a psychopath, and I hope I'm not a psychopath.
No, you're definitely not. You're charming, much like Freddie.
Yeah, I'm the lovable protagonist of Twitter right now. I love it. Until next week, until that turns into, presumably, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. Alright guys, next week is going to be loaded with Batman content, so look forward to that. Enjoy Peacemaker. If you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to this episode yet. Go watch Peacemaker first, then come back and listen to this.
Mm-hmm. Listen to the Suicide Squad review to get the prep for Peacemaker.
Yep, you can do that. Go see Uncharted, and we'll see you next week for the Batman. Goodbye.
Peace.